Okay, I'm going to try to keep my head out of the way for the most part, but it will be impossible to do that completely. I think the camera's at not a bad angle. I laid in just a rough sketch here, obviously, part of an underpainting. A little bit of ultramarine blue and yellow ochre in the distance here, the distant hills. Cobalt blue, and a hint of burnt sienna, and a bit of yellow ochre for the water. Foreground was pretty much ultramarine blue and some burnt sienna and a little bit of yellow ochre, keeping it very dark. Rocks, raw umber. You know, outlines on the trees, or the trees themselves, yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, and the outlines are burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. I may not get to this today because it's still pretty wet. I might paint into it, I might not. I don't know. We will see. But let's put some sky in here. Do something somewhat interesting. Let's see what we can come up with. I haven't got any kind of a sketch there. I'm just going to sort of wing it. We'll wing it and see how it goes. Okay. I think I'd like to do something with a direction like that. You know, again, we're bringing our attention into this area. I'm using a pretty big brush. That's fine, that's intentional. I think I mentioned yesterday I'd like to keep this looking like a study. A study! Well, it really is kind of a study, you know? No, I'm not looking out the window at this scene right now, but I'm trying something on, and if it works, you know, then if things go just right, then I often like to make them into bigger works. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, that's a bit of yellow ochre, a bit of white, touch of raw umber. Let's go back to our yellow ochre and white. We'll put a hint, just a hint of alizarin crimson in there as well. A little more. There's a bit of cobalt blue contaminating that. Now that's just fine. Excuse me. In fact, let's go to our cobalt blue right now. Cobalt blue in a little bit of alizarin crimson, and some white, and some yellow ochre. Yellow ochre. Sorry, my voice is kind of in and out. Some shades of mauve and blue in there. Okay. do I? Yeah, I think I need to add a little more cobalt blue to my palette. I'm just going to hold off on that for a second. Yeah, I'm going to need more of that cobalt blue. Yeah, I think I'll bring some in on this side as well. It's purple. We'll keep it on the redder side of purple. Redder than this. How's that? Barely. Barely is just fine. I have no problem with barely. And actually, let's just put some up here. Okay. I don't want my brush to run too dry here. We'll try to avoid that. Try to keep some notion of impasto, of the feeling of impasto going on. Too much detail there. Don't like that. All right. I'll continue. This to here. And this up to here. Okay. So far so good, I think. Now let's go even redder. We're going to go back to our ultramarine blue. Yellow ochre. Bit of white, bit more white. Yeah. Yes and no. If I go too white, I'm going to end up with a fairly pastel sky, and I'm not inclined towards that as a rule. So we'll just, yep, still not strong enough. Okay, more raw umber, more more alizarin crimson. Come on, Phil, don't be afraid of those colors. Don't be afraid of those colors. It's still soft and gentle, but it's got a little more variety in it anyway. Now we're doing a lot of raw umber and alizarin crimson, just those two. Okay. Let's cut into this tree a little bit. Yeah, you could say, why are you using such a big brush for small work? But a big brush gives small work a certain look. To me, the good rule of the thumb is always use the biggest brush you can for any given job on a painting. Now, it's a bit of a matter of opinion that I could use a smaller brush. So I'm using bigger than the biggest brush I should probably be using. But that's part of the fun. It's part of the challenge, If there's no challenge to it, then why bother? Okay, that's too much for me. Too much branch. I'm going to cut that off a little bit. Yeah, I think that's good. Steal a bit from here. I like the painterly look of a big brush. The strokes of a big brush, I should say. Well, I know I'm going to be going into that a little bit more. Okay. Back to our cobalt blue. Cobalt blue, a hint of yellow ochre. So we have just, it's almost going into a dirty green. Well, yeah, maybe it's not almost, maybe it actually is. It doesn't hit you in the face. It's a bit subtle. I don't need quite so much up and down on this distant horizon. It can be flatter, that's okay. Okay. The sky is painted in, but it's not painted. It's not finished. So maybe that'll do. We'll go wet in wet now. Go back into this sky. Make it a little more interesting. I'm going to be careful not to get too carried away with detail. But we'll just do a couple of things to groom it. Make it look maybe slightly more sophisticated. I like the strong angular shapes on the trees. So that's easy to achieve with a fairly new square brush, eh? Okay, let's go back to our lightest light. I'm going to go back to yellow ochre and white. Not a lot of yellow ochre. Where do I want it? I think I would like it here. I think I would like it here. Something like that. Okay. Spreading too much white. And of course, that's when you get junk on your brush. We'll run up here a little bit as well. I think that's okay. All right. Now back to our yellow ochre. Just departing from white a little bit and adding some alizarin crimson. It's another dimension. That line's pretty clean. We'll dirty that one up a little bit. Playing around, fussing about. Okay. And let's reinforce our hole here a little bit. Why not? And let's add a little addition to it. That's at quite a right angle. Let me just bend that a little bit. Maybe it looks a little more natural then. Okay. Now we'll go back to our blue, the bluer side of purple. I'm not going to wash my brush out, but I will wipe it out. Because I don't mind if a bit of that yellow ochre stays in there. That's okay with me. Okay, cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, and white, and more cobalt blue. Is that light enough? It's dark-ish, it's not too bad though. Okay, I'm going to add a little more white to it. All these different little bits of cloud here and there, catching light in their own way, you know, it gives them good variety of color. Makes the sky more interesting as a whole. Okay, that's good, I think. Now let me add a little more alizarin crimson to my mix. Maybe raw umber and alizarin crimson. And we'll go white again. How is the... I'm not sure that's going to work very well. No, maybe it's okay. Okay, I'm getting dangerously close to making everything too weak. I don't want to do that. Okay, I think I know what I need. I think I need a little more alizarin crimson and yellow ochre. Okay, more alizarin crimson and more yellow ochre. Okay, and a hint of white. And another hint of white. I'm not worried about being too directional right now. Getting to the bottom of the sky, it's okay. That sky where it meets the horizon, that's the most distant sky on the painting, so you don't need to define your lines as strongly. Not in this one, you know. I say you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that, etc., etc. You know, when I say things like that, please understand that I'm not saying these are hard and fast rules that you must follow every time under penalty of death. They're not. What I really am meaning is just to say, in my opinion, for this particular painting, the one that I am working on at the moment, this is what I need to do, or this is what I want to do. So I apologize for muddy communication there. Oh, no. Don't do that. That's not what you want to do. Get back to your yellow ochre. Get back to your white. Okay. I could tidy up all kinds of things, and by the time everything would be tidied up, the painting would be almost dead. So we're not going to keep tidying. Okay, close, a little further away, a little further away, a little further away, close again. I don't know, you know, different layers. Skies are layered. And you see it when those clouds are in there. My goodness, without vapor in the sky, all you'd have is a bunch of boring blue sky. And as nice as it can be in some cases, personally, I prefer the stormier stuff. Or at least a sky with character. The sky will tell you what the weather is doing and what it's going to do in the near future. Okay. Okay. You know, I was going to square it off and say, oh, that's it for now. No. If I'm going to try to squeeze this one in before New Year's, then I better get squeezing. Okay, I'm going to need some more yellow ochre. I am so out of yellow ochre, it's terrible. I really kind of thought, well, I don't know, maybe the art store's open today. I'm not going to take the drive to town though, just for one tube. I am pretty sure I've got enough to finish this. Okay. Our distant hills. We've gone to purple, we can move into the warm green now. So let's move into the warm green. A little bit of, what is this? Excuse me, ultramarine blue. A little bit of burnt sienna. A little bit of white, a little bit of yellow ochre. How does that look? Well, not bad. It's not. I don't want it to be important. I really don't. So maybe. No. What I'll do is I'll go up a little higher in value, just a bit. And just stick with some varieties of that. You know, some of the bristles on the brush have got a little bit more ultramarine blue. Some have got a little more white. Some have a little more yellow ochre. Some have a little more burnt sienna. So you get a good variety there. Let a little bit of that wash-in show through here and there. You know, that'll help to aid to the design a bit. See if I can get this line reasonably straight. I did it freehand. I rarely do that freehand anymore because it's like, well, you know, once I can draw a straight line, what's the point in just always doing it when it's so much easier just to lay a straight edge down. I don't consider it cheating. But every now and then, doesn't hurt to do some freehand stuff. How's that? I think that's reasonably straight. Let's not forget it's a painting. It's an Impressionist painting, so we will just not worry about it. Okay, we'll call those hills painted. Let's do this little bit of water in behind the rocks. Boy, really following the rules today. Going from distance to foreground. Okay, back to our ultramarine blue and our white. A hint of yellow ochre, just a hint of it. That's very blue. How is that? I think that's going to work. I think that's going to work okay. Let me leave a thin line between that distant shore and the closer area. Okay. Let's get brave. Put more of a solid line there. As I use my brush and go up and down, up and down, up and down. Not the steadiest hand. I used to have more steady hands, but I don't. Used to have this, used to have that. I remember the good old days. Yeah, that's fairly. That's kind of boring, so let's add a little bit of white. Let's add a bit of white. Let's add a little yellow ochre as well. Probably should be doing this once the surface is somewhat dry, but in fact I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to. And the surface won't be that dry until into the new year, but you know, as long as I have the painting in place, that's really my main goal here for today. So let's not worry about anything else for the moment. I'm tempted to go right down into here with the light, but I think that's not a good idea. I think that maybe I should wait with that. I think that I shall wait with that. Okay. All right. Thank you for giving me permission. All right. Scrape off our little pile here. Yes, I waste a lot of paint. But you know, if you're afraid to throw paint away, you're going to end up with overmixed piles. You're going to kill your colors. You're going to put it on the painting. You're going to wreck your painting. And then you're going to go, why does my painting look so flat and muddy? Well, guess what? You just wasted even more colors because you'll try to repair it and fix it. And what you're doing is you're throwing good paint after bad. You're throwing good money after bad. So don't be afraid to keep that mixing area clean on your palette. Remix colors as you need them. Okay, now what am I gonna complain about now? I could go into that tree and these rocks. Let me stand up and back up. Yeah, when I back up, this pinky area in here looks pretty flat. But I've reached my sort of saturation point for physical paint right now. So I'm going to have to leave off. I'm not going to make it stronger by painting more wet into wet, because then I will have painted wet into wet onto wet. So by then you lose your strength. So if I need to revisit these areas, I'll do that once the painting's done. Right now, let's just get this painted in. I think it's before tomorrow night. I have to have at least, the painting set in place. I'm not worried about the final touches. Not worried about that step 6, as it were. Okay. This being quite textured and strong and a solid land, I think what I might do now, rather than painting this and working my way down, I think I'll paint the water in the foreground. It's softer, it's splashy, it's more ethereal. That way I have only left this to do, and I will probably do it tonight or tomorrow morning to bring it to completion. Okay, so let's play with that foreground water now. I'm going to ultramarine blue, and yeah, ultramarine blue and a little bit of yellow ochre. Still just a hint of it, not too much. Some white. I think that's whiter than I want. Okay, a little bit of burnt sienna. Let's muddy the water here. And muddy the water. Ha ha ha. Sorry. No pun intended. Or maybe it was. I don't know. I don't know. Will we ever know? Okay, I can go a little bit darker than that yet. And a little bit bluer than that yet. I'm going to stay away from the base of the rocks just slightly. Oh, I've got junk in my brush. I'm out of this stuff. So I'm just going to have to excuse me for a moment while I go get some more. Oh, okay. Guess I don't have very far to go. Let's turn down my stove there, my gas stove. It's getting pretty warm in here. Yeah, okay. Alright, I think I can probably be a little bit lighter if I wanted to, but maybe I'll add a little bit of white to it, just a touch. Wet in wet. For me, when I do wet and wet, usually a round brush works better. But then I can't get this sort of cubist-ish. Nah, it's not cubist. I can't get the square edges like I can with a flat brush. Not a filbert fan, never have been. In fact, as I'm sure you've seen, when my brush starts to look like a filbert, it usually meets its end in the garbage can. Might work good for you, might work just fine for you, but it's not my cup of tea. Okay, that's not bad. Back to dark. Back to darker. Burnt sienna, ultramarine blue. Oh, look at us, we're going darker yet. Whatever will we do? Oops, picking up junk here. Picking up junk. I think we can just go right across the painting with that dark at the base. Okay. Doesn't have to be a lot in the foreground. We don't want a lot in the foreground. We want the eyeballs to go right here and then trickle down and look around here somewhere. Okay, now let's just do a very small amount. A very little bit, but it's something. It's something that I think is required. Okay, that's those two. I don't know if I'm going to put much more there. Let me add a little more white. I think that yes, we'll put. You know, I probably shouldn't be doing this because I kind of need to get my rocks in place first here. Before I start fooling around with these thin lines. Yeah. Amateur hour here at Grumpy Studios. Okay. Oh, you know what? We're here now. The brush is dirty anyway. This video is, I don't know how long it's going to be. Longer than usual, that's for sure. Let me just see. Let me just feel how it feels, I'll hop onto these trees a little bit. I'll start by laying in a bit of burnt sienna and white. It's very strong. It's too strong. But I'm going to do it anyway. That's where the trunks are. I might have to overlay them with a little higher value, same color, burnt sienna and white. I might have to do that. We'll see. You know, I don't want to use these colors in these trees. I want these trees to pop out a little more. So maybe what I'll do is I'll use a few more watercolors in here, seeing as they're pretty silhouette-y as well, hey? As opposed to sweaty. I was tempted to go cobalt blue and burnt sienna, but the particular cobalt blue that I have, I am thoroughly unimpressed with. It loses all of its strength as soon as you mix it with something. So it's just, I bought it to tide me over, but I want to use it up now that I have it. But it doesn't work that well. You know, sometimes I just use straight cobalt blue and burnt sienna. I could try it. I could try it. That's, no, that's okay. I don't mind that color. I don't mind how that looks. I think I might be a little bit low on the value side, but you know, as I say, it's only a study. It's a little 8 by 10. It's okay if that tree is that dark. Look at this, I keep touching everything. Probably rubbed my hand all over my face already. Well. Yeah, you know, I kind of like that. I don't know that I want to change very much about that. I don't know that I want to have... Usually what I'll do is I'll start with this dark and I'll add light on top. If I add light on top, it's not going to be much. Not much at all. Yeah, I kind of don't mind that scrubby dub look. Kind of don't mind it. So far. Let's just keep playing. We'll see. Yeah. Okay. I am now going to add a little more light. I'm just going to add white to it so it stays cold. You know, the underpainting on these trees, it was still very wet, and now I'm laying wet paint over that, and wet paint on top of wet paint, and wet paint on top of wet. As I just mentioned, wet and wet and wet and wet. It's not great. Not when you're working with some somewhat confined design. I can't just sort of smoosh all over the place. Look at, I think my fingers are turning out pretty well, better than the painting even. But you know, it's okay. All right, one last attempt at making this look a little nicer. Can't seem to bring myself to stop here. Well, maybe that's not so bad. You know what I can do? I can, to bring things up a little bit, I stayed a little muted with my two little bits of trunk there. How about if I were to put some life to them now? Okay, red sienna, a little bit of white. That's too strong. You know, by the time I have these rocks in, I may not need much. I may just have to put maybe a little more highlight. Take the evenness out of this, make it look a little more natural, or a little more, yeah, how would you say that? A little rougher. Okay. You know, maybe I'm just fiddling now. Maybe it's not such a good plan. Sorry, I'm mumbling. Maybe I'm just fiddling now, I said. Okay, let's just let's strengthen what I have here a little bit. I don't need a perfect line around everything, but I feel that there are some areas that need a little bit of bolstering so that they stand out thoroughly or well. See, it's so wet, the surface, that I can barely even get a good line on here. Now, sure, I could grab my sable brush, my signature brush, and go ahead with that. I don't want to. I want to stick with this big brush. The second I get there goes my baby finger. It likes to dance sometimes when I'm doing this. Okay, I don't know that I need to worry a whole lot more about that. I feel that at the moment, if I go into these rocks, I'm going to make a mess. But what we do have is a panel that is pretty much 85% done, 80% done. Now, what I also have to do is this. Because boy, did I make my fingers messy this time. But a little bit of paint thinner. Get most of the paint off. And then I just lick the solvent off my fingers. And, you know, once the bad taste goes out of your mouth and you stop vomiting, and you come back from the hospital, your hands are clean. Please don't do that. Okay, I'm not going to wish you a Happy New Year. I'm going to do that tomorrow because, as promised, I will see you tomorrow to finish this little guy. But I will square the painting off now. No, I'm not. I'm going to square the camera off now. Okay, what do we have here? There it is, guys. And here I am. See you soon. Have a good day.